Welcome to the Car Sim and Race Driver Show, presented by Hugh Hattrick. Drive fast and try not to crash. Hello everyone, and welcome to all our viewers and all our listeners of the Car Sim and Race Driver Show. Well, it's Sunday and I'm midway through watching the French Grand Prix, but it's a bit dull, I have to say. It's a bit of a procession with Hamilton at this point, leading away by over 12 seconds, but we'll see what happens by the end of the race. So I was inspired to come along and think, okay, I'll make a video on all the latest cars I've been having a look at over the last couple of weeks. Really a kind of review, because we've had some great adventures and we've seen some fantastic cars. So I thought, well, why not show them to the world and to the world of YouTube? So I'm going to start with the picture that you can see here. Is the Seat. It's the Cupra version. It's the Cupra Seat Ateca, which is a very, very fast car. And I have to say, in this colour, it looks rather nice too. Now, I drove this car and it was really, really nice. It was fast, it was comfortable, it was quick. It was kind of like a hot hatch on stilts. And I have to say, there is a little bit of money off them. Maybe just about £1,500 at the moment, but that might come over. That might increase a bit as a bit more stock comes into the country. But if you want a fast SUV that's quite, not too big, not kind of lumbering, and we want something that's good around the corners, the ride quality was pretty reasonable as well, and pretty sensibly priced. And being the Cupra version, I don't see its depreciation being a major issue. I think it should hold its value fairly well. And it's really quite an individual car. If you like cars that stand out, this is definitely one to have a look at. So let's have a quick look and review of all these wonderful cars I've been driving over the last few weeks. Now, some of you may have seen the video I did on Company Car in Action. Now, as you can see here in the background, there's lots of other cars there. You've got Suzuki's and different things, and there's Fiat and all sorts of companies that came to Company Car in Action. But there are so many to choose from, and we're there for 2 days, and we drove a fair number of cars with my colleague Jonathan Sutherland. But I'm going to take you about some of the adventures as well that we did too. So I'll show you some more pictures, so let's go. Now, this was the Suzuki stand, and as you can see, it was quite damp over the last couple of days when we were there, but it made it great fun, actually. It really kind of helped you get a good idea what the cars were like. And to be fair, most of these cars, they've all got traction control, many of them got ESP, it's all kind of standard regulation stuff, but they were rather good. And what stood out on the Suzuki stand was the amazing Swift. I really have to say, I drove an automatic Swift. Now, if you had told me that's the car you're going to drive out of the Suzuki range, I would have run a mile. But this was actually remarkably good. It had a semi-automatic paddle shift gearbox, and it really changed gear really quickly, and it was nippy. It had the hybrid engine in it, the 1.2 hybrid, and it was really, really quite fast, and it was like a little hot hatch. And to be fair, you can get them for around about £15,000. There's quite a few pre-reg cars available, and with the Suzuki warranty, they're pretty much indestructible. It's a very, very good car. For what you get, it's really, really decent. It was very comfortable, very easy to drive, just jump in and go. And it's a nice looking car. That's the sport version. But just the standard 1.2 petrol automatic was absolutely brilliant, and well worth considering if you're looking for a small 5-door hatchback. So you can see what they had here. It's just coming into view just now. Oh, there we are. It shows you how slow my computer is. But there you go. That's the hot hatch version as well, the sport. And I think it was that one that was the automatic that I drove. But it was pretty good. Now the Vitaras are good. It's quite a strong lineup. And if you need something that's four-wheel drive, then many of these are. You can get the Vitara in four-wheel drive. You can get the S-Cross in four-wheel drive. So it really was pretty reasonable. Now, this is the kind of car that the Car Sim and Race Driver viewers like. It's the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. What a machine. Now, the good news about these is these are not only fantastic to drive and really quite cheap to run as well if you get the diesel version, but they are remarkably cheap. Some good, really good discounts on them. Easily 3 to 4 grand off, sometimes even more than that, depending on the model. And there's quite a few available in dealers up and down the country. So really, you're in a very good position to get yourself a cracker of a car. Certainly this is the Giulietta, but we drove Giulias as well, and they were phenomenal. I'll show you some of the pictures here. Here we are with the Alfa Giulia. This was the diesel super version. I mean, how about that? Just have a look at it with the black paintwork, the kind of dark black wheels. I mean, how would you like one of those on your driveway? Well, the good news is that there are second-hand examples available and you can really pick one up for around about 18.5 grand. That's what I've seen on Auto Trader and at Motorpoint and places like that. New ones are pretty good prices too. In fact, towards the end of the video, I'll show you some of the special offers that are available just now that could get you into one of these cars for a lot less money than you think. But the Alfas, I have to say, one of the biggest improvements I think I've ever seen from any lineup, because not only are they phenomenal to drive, but you just literally, you open that door, you jump in, it's keyless ignition, the little start-stop button is on the steering wheel, and it just is so easy to drive, and it's like a go-kart regarding the steering. It was actually, I drove a new Volvo S60 right after the Alfa Romeo Giulia, and it was just so much better. I mean, the Giulia was miles ahead. You know, it was sharper, the ride was better, the seats were far more comfortable. I was quite disappointed with the Volvo. I thought it would be a lot better. But honestly, when would you hear most, or people who like cars, genuinely say that the Alfa would be better than a Volvo S60? You know, a premium Alfa, you know, would be that good. It is a very, very, very good car. And when I got the run in the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, which you'll see in pictures coming up as well, the chap who accompanied me said that it was so good that BMW actually tried to buy the chassis from Alfa Romeo, but Alfa refused to sell it to them. But they see that car as a huge threat to BMW. So it shows us how great a car this is. And the fact is, there's plenty around about 20, 22 grand for some, you know, kind of low mileage ex-rental or kind of, you know, ex-demos, that kind of thing. This is a car you should seriously consider. If you like something that's a bit of fun, then you could get a great, you know, a great car with an Alfa Romeo badge, which is a rare thing, and certainly something we hope to be able to do a bit more of. Now this car, this was something else. This was the it's the Stelvio, and it is, let me move this slightly so you can get more of it in the picture. This was the 200 brake horsepower petrol version. Now, it is an absolute firecracker of a car, obviously a lot less money than the Quadrifoglio version. In fact, there are some huge discounts. There's about 6 or 7 grand off these cars. It's worth looking at if you want a kind of pretty quick sporting, really, it's almost like a hot hatch. I mean, it absolutely flies, but it's got, you know, it's practical. You can fit plenty of suitcases in the back. Your kids will be fine in the back. It's really, really decent. In fact, when I was driving this, it's really quite oversteery. The Millbrook track, there's a few places where it's, you know, quite off camber, and it was quite easy to get the back end out, or certainly get the traction coming in if you accelerated a bit too early, because the steering is so pinpoint, along with a very, very active accelerator. Or maybe just my heavy right foot, meant it was quite playful, and you had to kind of have your wits about you. But it's a phenomenal car, and really, when you think so many other SUVs in this category are quite expensive, this is a bargain, and definitely you've got to put this on your list of cars to drive. And I couldn't say that highly enough. I mean, what happens is when you go to events like this, it takes you about a week to kind of come down because you're so high after driving all these great cars, and that one was one of the best. And I would strongly recommend, if you can get a test drive, Alfa does sometimes do at least day test drives, maybe even 2-day test drives. Go onto their website and organise it and see what you think, because it's a brilliant, brilliant car. Now, this is the car you've all been waiting for. It's the Giulia Quadrifoglio, one I drove. What a car, what a noise, what a machine. You can't really get much better than this. And, you know, the fact is, I actually saw one of these, an ex-demo version, for just 43,995. Now, that is an absolute bargain, because these cars are, well, nearly 60 grand new, depending on the options that they have. So it's a huge discount. There'll be a few more coming, I reckon. That was at Motorpoint. But I reckon there'll be a few in the Alfa Romeo network, so it's worth shopping around to see if you can find one. But this car, it drove as well as it looks, and you've got to put it on your list. If there's any driving events where Alfa's turning up, make sure you attend, because this is a great car, and one, if you're any kind of petrol head at all or like cars, this is better than playing the games, because this is real. This is absolutely brilliant fun, and you should definitely make sure you get a shot in one. Now, for me, this is basically the star of the show. This is the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, and all you need to do is just look at it. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? What a machine! The red, Alfa Romeo red, and those incredible black cloverleaf wheels. This is an incredible car. Again, they're between 60 and 70,000. I think you could probably nip some money off for a while. There were some discounts actually on these, but they're a bit harder to find at the moment. But this is the car. I mean, really, for 50 or 60 grand, yes, you could get yourself into a Volvo XC90 or maybe a top end XC60. Yeah, maybe some BMW X5s, things like that. But honestly, this whips them, and this is so much more fun, so much more stylish. I mean, when you got that on your driveway, people are just going to think, wow, now that's a car. That's a car of character. You've bought something that's got some real charisma, that says that you actually know what you're talking about. This is a car that shows that you've got an interest in motoring, and otherwise you would drive a Toyota RAV4. But there you are. It's the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, which was for me the star of Company Car in Action 2019. Now, although this is another picture of the same car, I want you to have a look in the background. You've got the new Jeep Wrangler. Now, I drove that, and I drove this car here, the Jeep Renegade. I had great fun in that, by the way. Those cars, certainly the Renegade, is a car transformed. I have never been driven a car, after it's had its kind of midlife update and think it is absolutely different to the first car. The first car was very, very heavy, didn't really want to handle very well, felt a bit lethargic, wasn't very nice, but albeit that was the 2-litre turbo diesel version with the automatic gearbox. But this was a 6-speed, 1-litre turbo Firefly engine, which is the 120 horsepower petrol 3-cylinder. And it's nippy. It sounds great. It's meant the car's an awful lot lighter at the front, so it turns in so much better. Body roll's controlled. The gearbox. Now, normally Fiat gearboxes have never been that great. That is like a proper GTI gearbox. It just flicks into gear, a lovely kind of slot. It's like the old kind of Honda gearboxes and Mazda MX-5 gearboxes, a real kind of clinkety-clink, a lovely, lovely gearbox to use. I mean, normally I would go for automatics, but I'm not that keen on kind of current manuals. But that car, the Renegade, as well as the Fiat 500X, which is basically the same car, shares the same platform. You can just see it up there in the corner. I drove that one as well. That was a fantastic car. Very well, recommend it. You need to have a look at them. There's some great discounts, great prices. Come to us if you're looking to get a price, because we can get some cracking deals on them too. But it's genuinely a really decent car. Well worth a look. Obviously, you don't have to get it in yellow. You can find something a lot less hideous than that. Or kind of more normal. There's that blue, but I wouldn't choose that either. I think there's better colours, probably white. White's quite good, or black. I think it's probably decent for that. Now, to go back to the Jeep Wrangler, this is the new one. Bigger engine, it's a lot better interior. Obviously, they're kind of unstoppable off-road. This was an automatic version, and it was okay. The only flaw is that there's no footrest, and the kind of transmission tunnel comes right into your footwell. So you're going to struggle to drive that for more than half an hour without feeling, oh no, it's really uncomfortable. So it's almost there. I mean, it's still not brilliant, but it's a lot better than it was. At least it's a bit more comfortable, and it looks a lot better. But that's probably about enough said about the Wrangler. Now, here we are, the Vauxhall Stand. They've always taken central stage at Company Car in Action ever since I can remember. They've always been right in the middle there. This year's cars, to be fair, the staff were really, really good, very knowledgeable, and they're quite confident about where the company's going. Because this is the first time in a long time that Vauxhall's actually made any money, because they were pretty much bust. And then PSA Group, the Peugeot Citroën DS, took them over. And now, of course, they've cut a lot of their sponsorship in football and all these other things that they were doing. So for any football fans and sports fans, you probably will have noticed there's no longer the Vauxhall signage on the T-shirts and polo tops and everything else that they were sponsoring, and they've had to put it basically back in to try and develop some new cars. But the best news is the Mokka is going. That's right. There's only, they reckon, about another year or so of Mokkas being sold in the UK, and then that horrid car will finally cease to exist. Certainly in that version. There is a new one, but that's going to be based on a Peugeot, so it should be an awful lot better. So what was the star of the show? Well, I have to say, in terms of the Vauxhall Stand, the Insignia Estate was really, really nice. Lovely car, very refined, but I just don't know if it fits anymore. They know these cars are just not selling. The Grandland X was excellent. That's based on the Peugeot 3008. I'll see if I can get a picture for you of that. Well, I've searched for a picture of the Grandland X, but unfortunately I didn't take one. It shows you how much I thought of that. It's a reasonable car, but maybe nothing to particularly write home about. However, this is something that's far more exciting. Look at this. It's the Megane RS. These are phenomenal cars. Roughly about 28 grand list price. You can get them for maybe about 26, 27. There's a few going about. Let's say we can also get them brand new for around about £27,000. So you're saving maybe about 2 grand, something like that, depending on the kind of spec that you want. But they are absolutely phenomenal. They had an automatic version with this, the paddle shift gearbox, and that was just awesome. Absolutely brilliant. Now, if you're looking for, again, a full-size SUV, the Koleos here, the Renault Koleos, is well worth a look. It's basically a Nissan X-Trail, but I think it looks prettier. It's much nicer on the inside, and it's quite American. You know, it's the kind of car you'd get at Orlando Airport once you've gone for your 2 weeks at Disney. But it's so much better than most of the other SUVs out there. And you can get them for ex-demos, 24, 25 grand. There's decent money off a new one. Again, come to us if you're not getting a discount, because we can source you them with at least 5 to 6 grand off, or certainly very near that. And you can really spec up whatever colour you want. You get things like free metallic. It's actually a really good car. It's got a 2-litre turbo diesel, 4x4, automatic, leather, everything that you can think of, full sat-nav, the whole thing, and they are absolute bargains. Far, far better. I mean, the thing is, you can actually get a really good Koleos for the price of a mid-range Kadjar. Now, the Kadjar is not very good. I drove the 1.2 automatic with 160 horsepower petrol engine, and although it was nippy, it was quite kind of, didn't feel that connected. The steering had virtually no feel to it at all, and it wasn't great. The diesel's maybe slightly better, but it's just not really any kind of driver's car. So I would maybe avoid the Kadjar unless you're really keen on it. I would avoid that, or just look to maybe getting a Koleos, which might be a bit bigger, but it's just so much nicer. And you don't have to get the 4-wheel drive. There is a 2-wheel drive version with the same spec, and you get everything on it, and it's just an awful lot nicer, much better car. So let's see what's next on the list. Now, this was the Ford Stand, which had the new active Focus Estates. And also, I got one there, and it also had the Fiesta ST, which was a brilliant car. It was out so much I couldn't get a photograph of that. I'll try and see if I can get another one eventually. But that was a brilliant car. The ST 200, wow. You have to have a shot of that. If you're a listener to our podcast and you like cars, which I'm sure you do as you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, you've got to get a shot in a Fiesta ST. With the 200 horsepower petrol engine. It is a brilliant car. There are some available for roughly around about £18,500 to £19,000. There's not so much discount on them because they are a bit harder to get, and Ford's kind of limits as well the kind of discount available, but they are pretty good. I like the new Focus. I've done a write-up on it before. If you haven't seen our video, look on our list on the YouTube channel, and you'll see my review of the ST. It was the 1.5 turbo diesel, 130 horsepower with the navigation, and it's a great car. You really can't go that far wrong. There's decent money off. If your dealer's not giving you much off, come to us and we'll make sure that you get something, because there's decent, at least 3 or 4 grand off, no problem. Maybe even more than that, depending on the model. But yeah, pretty good. Ford has got a very good baseline, and they're popular. The residuals are a bit better than they used to be, but they are genuinely good cars. The Focus, it's wide and it's really helped the ride quality and also the handling. The interior is a lot better. It's comfortable to drive, and it's just a matter of jump in and go. You're in a Ford. It's just really straightforward. So the Ford Stand's always good, always really friendly staff, and definitely we had some great drives there, and they had all the transit vans and all that kind of like the new Ford Rangers, which actually has a 10-speed automatic gearbox. How is that? And that will help it maybe go off-road and do other things too, and improve the economy a bit for on-road driving. But yeah, a very, very strong lineup just now. Now, you might think, as being viewers and listeners to the Car, Sim and Race Driver show, what on earth are we doing showing these kind of vans? But they have actually caught on quite a bit. Remember the A-Team from the 1980s? Well, you can get a Ford Transit spec to a very similar way. So it looks just like the A-Team van of Babe Rackus and always locked in Hannibal and the whole bunch. Especially this silver one here. You can see the one on the right-hand side. Isn't it quite cool? Now you can get them all with blacked out windows. You can get the limited version, has alloy wheels. You can get an upgraded engine with more horsepower, like 140, 160 horsepower. You can have automatics, manuals. They're actually pretty good on fuel, but they're practical. They're great family cars, and actually for the price of them, we've seen some versions for about 20 grand plus VAT. Which are pre-reg, ready to go. You can get an amazing car. Obviously, these come as full kind of caravanettes as well. That would be the old term. They wouldn't want to use that now, but perhaps maybe they'll call it like a mini motorhome. But they're really amazing. You can drive it down to Goodwood to the Festival of Speed, get yourself a camping spot, and simply sleep in the back. Now, there are special versions, like the business versions, that go up to like 40, 50 grand. But even just if you shop around a bit, you'll find you'll get some pretty good ones for, nearly new for 20 grand plus VAT, or depending on the model, a lot less than that. But these are, they say it's kind of part and parcel of the small business, and most small businesses have a Transit. So there you are, the Transit Custom. Well worth a look. This was a kind of typical shot of company car in action. You see, you take your car and it goes round the loop, and then you go out to the car park here, or the kind of the main display area, and then you go out onto the Alpine route, and then onto the 2-mile oval. Now there's the Renault Twizy, and it was the RS version. I thought it was going to be the one that Sebastian Vettel drove, that had the kind of curve system in the back that meant you could do hundreds of miles an hour. It didn't. It did about 40 miles an hour, and it had virtually no brakes. In fact, when I went onto the special track that they had made, I thought it would kind of stop like a go-kart. It doesn't. Yeah, the brake pedal was almost solid. It took a fair bit of getting used to try and get the car to stop. But it's great fun. And I had no windows. I was having such a laugh because it was quite wet when I drove it. But honestly, it put a massive smile on my face. And you can get them for about maybe 3, 4, 4.5, 5 grand second hand. There are a few going about. It's actually quite a good little car. But I think it would be far better if you just put a petrol engine in it. I mean, it'd be quicker, it'd be more economical, because it can only do about 45, 50 miles. It's not really brilliant for the range. But if you put a little motorbike petrol engine in that, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. There's the Kia Stinger, as you can see over there. Lots of different Kias, and you've got Vauxhall, and you've got Toyota and Lexus over there. It was still, I think, about 21 manufacturers were there this year. Over 300 cars that you could test drive, plus you had the off-road course as well. So there was a massive amount that you could do. It really is. If you've got to get to company car in action next year, they're already registering your interest. I would definitely get on the website and make sure you get onto that as soon as you can. Now this is the BMW Stand, and I know as listeners of and viewers of the Car Sim and Race Driver Show, you're pretty much all BMW fans. Because they do make fantastic cars. And they had a great range. You had the new Z4, you had the new 3 Series, which I drove as well, and that is, of course, where Abby Eaton was doing her work, and we hope to have her on the show very, very soon. That should be a great one to find out what it's like to work with Clarkson, Hammond and May from the Grand Tour. But there were lots of fantastic cars there, and you can see there's the back of the Ford stand. But BMW, they were pretty good. The only thing was they wanted you to sign how many forms every time you drove the car, just to make sure you weren't going to crash it or that you were insured. But yeah, a pretty impressive stand, and very, very nice cars to drive. Now here is the car of choice for every gangster going. That's right, it's a new Mercedes G-Wagon. This one was worth over £110,000. It had pretty much every kind of luxury you could think of in it. It was quite a machine. It's so solid. When you sit in it, it just feels like you're in a tank. It just feels indestructible. And this massive engine, it just roars away. It's quite a machine. Probably quite rare to see, well, unless you maybe live in North London. But it's quite a machine, and definitely we had a great time driving that. And it does feel like you can just go anywhere in it. And it's amazing when you think, how old is that design? And yet they're still producing it. They're still making it today, and it's still on order and selling quite well. They still do a good number of units every year with it. Very much specialist, but if you want something potentially with bulletproof windows, that's the car for you. And to finish off with, what else could I end with but Abby Eaton from the Grand Tour? Now that was a spot by Jonathan, who said, I think that's Abby Eaton over there. And sure enough it was. And she very kindly had a quick chat with us. And then I asked her about the podcast and said she would love to do it with us. So within hopefully the next few weeks, we'll get that organised and we'll bring that to you. But she's a fantastic racing driver, and it's going to be really exciting finding out about her history and how she's got where she's got today. And the fact she is a driver coach. So you could maybe get a lesson with Abby Eaton on how to race and how to get your lines done properly. And I'm sure it would be an unforgettable experience. So there you have it. A write-up of the last couple of weeks. We've had some amazing drives in the last few weeks. This is the best time of year. Company Car in Action. I want to say a big thank you to them and to Bar Media, because they've allowed us to go for over 16 years, and it has been just got better and better every year. And honestly, if you're in fleet or if you have a company car and you're a decision maker, you need to be at Company Car in Action. It's the best event of the year, and you'll have a great time. You'll make great contacts. It's definitely, you've got to be there. Excellent. Well, look, it's been fantastic to speak to you today. Have a great weekend. I'm going to catch the end of the Grand Prix, and then no doubt there'll be a results show, so you'll be able to see more about that. But remember to like and subscribe and share our videos with all your friends and family so we can get out there, and to like and subscribe to our channel as well. Have a fantastic weekend, and remember, drive fast and try not to crash. Bye just now.